tires and keep going. If it rains, that makes life a lot harder for him and everyone.
Got Cricket World Cup warm-up over on 5 Live Sports Extra, which you can got Sunderland, Charlton Athletic in the League One playoff final getting underway now, a rematch of that classic playoff match from the 1990s. Russell Fuller are at the French Open for the first day of the event at Roland Garros. But here in Monaco, the cars pull away off the start line for their formation lap. It's 2:10 here on BBC Radio 5 Live, and this is the Monaco Grand Prix. So as the cars make their way around the shortest circuit on the calendar for the final time before the race begins, let's go through the starting grid. Lewis Hamilton is on pole position for the Mercedes team. His teammate Valtteri Bottas alongside him. Max Verstappen in third, looking to cause trouble. Fourth is Sebastian Vettel, with fifth Kevin Magnussen in the Haas. Daniel Ricciardo starts in sixth place ahead of Daniel Kvyat in seventh. Pierre Gasly's Red Bull is eighth, with Carlos Sainz and Alexander Albon completing the top 10. Nico Hülkenberg starts in 11th spot ahead of Lando Norris in 12th. Grosjean in 13th, Raikkonen's Alfa Romeo is in 14th. Then the home hero, Charles Leclerc. A disastrous qualifying yesterday means that he starts 15th on the grid, really through no fault of his own. Sergio Perez and Lance Stroll, the two Racing Points, are in 16th and 17th. Antonio Giovinazzi is 18th for Alfa Romeo, with the Williams of George Russell and Robert Kubica bringing up the back of the grid. So the cars make their way around these famous corners. The first corner at Saint-Devote, a 90-degree right-hander named after the little church that's just beyond the runoff zone. Then they climb the hill up Beau Rivage, named after the beautiful view that you can see overlooking all the yachts and the harbour, up past the casino, down through Mirabeau and the Lowe's hairpin, out into the tunnel, through the chicane, past Tabac, named after the tobacconist shop that's just behind the barriers, and then around La Rascasse at the final couple of corners and back down towards the grid. Jenny, the cars are pulling into position in a couple of moments' time. The Monaco Grand Prix, the 90th anniversary of the Monaco Grand Prix, about to get underway.
Yes, and race controller just said there is a 90% chance of rain during this race.
Lewis Hamilton will start this race from pole position. He does very well here in the wet. So he won't want a wet race ideally, but I think he'll be fairly confident the heavens were to open, be able to deal with whatever is thrown at him. He lines up his Mercedes in pole position, running a red halo on the front of the car and wearing a red helmet in tribute to Niki Lauda. Two Mercedes that are first and second on the grid, with Max Verstappen in third place. All the cars are lined up. The start of the Monaco Grand Prix. A very short sprint down towards the first corner at Saint-Devote. Hamilton on the inside line will have that inside advantage for the first corner. All 5 lights are on. And after a quieter pause, we're racing in Monaco. Slow getaway from Bottas. Verstappen's up the inside of him, coming into turn 1. Can Verstappen take second place? No, he kind of backs out of it a little bit. Really good start from Daniel Ricciardo. He gets past Kevin Magnussen and up into 5th position. So Hamilton leads, Bottas second, Verstappen third. Vettel in 4th. 5th now is Daniel Ricciardo ahead of Magnussen. A few cars going side by side as they came past the casino on the first of 78 laps around the streets of Monaco. Hamilton got the job done. I thought Verstappen was going to be a little bit bolder. He definitely got a better start compared to as it gets very, very busy down into the hairpin. Charles Leclerc trying to go around the outside. Bit of a nudge there. Kimi Raikkonen, I think, has gone into the back of one of the Racing Points. I thought Verstappen, he got a better start than Bottas, but he didn't make the move for second place, Jolien.
No, he was clean up the inside of Bottas, and he went deep into the braking zone as well, but Bottas just managed to release the brakes, carry more speed around the outside, and they were very close to touching as well, the front wing of Verstappen and the rear tyre, the right rear of Valtteri Bottas. But Bottas did well then. Hung on around the outside in a similar way to he did for Lewis Hamilton in Baku, and that's crucial now. Mercedes still 1-2, and it's Daniel Ricciardo, the man that's managed to go 6th up to 5th. He's the gainer at the start then in the Renault.
So the cars come underneath our commentary box and then double back around La Rascasse to complete lap 1. Hamilton leads, Bottas second, Verstappen in third, Vettel in 4th. Then it is Ricciardo in 5th, Magnussen 6th, Gasly, Sainz, Kvyat and Albon, the top 10. So Carlos Sainz then has managed to get past Daniel Kvyat on that opening lap 2. We're on lap 2 of 78 now as Hamilton makes his way down the hill. The even on that opening lap, the two Mercedes and the Red Bull of Verstappen dropping Sebastian Vettel just a little bit in the Ferrari for fourth.
I thought Vettel almost could have had a run on the exit of turn one, because Verstappen, when he was stuck on the inside behind Hamilton, he sort of bulked start behind Hamilton, had a really tight line then as Bottas swept around the outside of Vettel, had a nice open line, might have been able to get a bit of drive, but he couldn't. Charles Leclerc's making moves, already up to 13th, so that's one place on the first lap, and now he's passed Lando Norris on the second lap.
Yeah, I think that was down into the Lowe's hairpin. There's going to be a lot of investigations on the incidents at turn one, mainly drivers towards the back of the field, going off the circuit, skipping around, and Leclerc, bold and forceful, down into the hairpin, past the papaya orange McLaren of Lando Norris.
Lovely stuff, really clean move. Seen some real horror shows down at that hairpin where someone tries to go for a move on the inside. It's so tight, they basically come together and block the entire circuit, but Leclerc got that one right, and he's in a mood to do well here. The local boy is getting on with it straight away, up to 13th, and now he's got Romain Grosjean ahead of him in the Haas.
Drag reduction system now enabled, so if the drivers are within a second of the car in front, then they can make the overtake, they open the flap in the rear wing and try and make an overtake, but around Monaco, not that straightforward. Lewis Hamilton leading, Bottas second, separated by about a second, with Max Verstappen in third, 1.5 seconds further back. Vettel dropping away a little, but the top four in general have pulled well clear. Daniel Ricciardo in fifth. He's getting under a bit of pressure now from Kevin Magnussen.
Ricciardo has no pace at all in fifth. The winner last year in the Red Bull, of course, the Renault is not a front-running car, but he's up in fifth place because of Leclerc's horror show in qualifying yesterday. Gasly picked up a penalty as well, but Ricciardo's lapping nearly 3 seconds slower than Lewis Hamilton out front, so he's holding back a little bit of gaggle, and that is Magnussen now behind him, and then Gasly in the Red Bull. So Ricciardo really losing touch quickly with the front runners.
Next driver for Leclerc to try and attack is Romain Grosjean's Haas. Grosjean down in 12th position. They come through the second part of the swimming pool section and into La Rascasse. Has a little look towards the inside, but he's a bit too far away. Just showing his nose, and I guess if he can let Grosjean know he's there, Grosjean maybe will think, I don't need to fight this guy.
But it's Monaco, and I think he probably will. Grosjean's in 12th, and we'll have an eye on the points as well. There's only one car, that's Nico Hulkenberg in 11th, and then Alexander Albon in 10th position, holding on to that final point. That's what Grosjean will be aiming for, but Leclerc wants more than just 1 point, and he's really tucked in behind the back of Romain Grosjean through Casino, and then into the first of the overtake opportunities at Mirabeau, and then the Lowe's hairpin, the tightest corner, and that's where he passed Norris. That's where he's coming up to now.
Go for it this time around, but they help because there's quite a big queue of cars all forming up essentially behind Daniel Ricciardo in position. Getting another look at the start here. Once again, Bottas was slowish away, not absolutely terrible. Was well along, Verstappen was quite a way alongside him coming into the first corner, but not on the brakes. He was pretty much there.
Yeah, he went deeper on the brakes, and that dragged him alongside Valtteri Bottas, but Bottas had the open line, and Verstappen couldn't go in too bold because he flattened into the back of Lewis Hamilton, so he had to be a little bit cautious there, and that's why Bottas was able to just run the wider line and keep the speed up and go around the outside of the Dutchman.
So, Lewis Hamilton leading the Monaco Grand Prix here on BBC Radio 5 Live. Jolyon Palmer alongside me, Jack Nicholls, in the commentary box. We've got Jenny Gow down in the pit lane, but it's Lewis Hamilton leading 1.2 seconds ahead of Valtteri Bottas, but that's just set the fastest lap of the race on that last lap. Max Verstappen was a couple of tenths slower in third position, so he's now dropped 1.7 seconds off the back of the Mercedes. Vettel in fourth is dropping away from them all. He's the slowest of the four front runners. Daniel Ricciardo is still just in front of Kevin Magnussen, but really only just 6 tenths of a second. Leclerc just lit the rear wheels up as he came off of Mirabeau, trying to do the overtake into Lowe's hairpin, but not able to do it. And I guess for Leclerc, for starting that far back on the grid, you're in the top 5 in the championship. You're not scoring points in a race. There's no point being in the race.
He might have a go for it here towards the chicane. Charles Leclerc
looks to the inside. Oh, that was a bit half-hearted in the end. It's worth noting he started on the medium compound of tyre as well. The front runners all started on the soft. Leclerc got a free choice of tyre. He may well be on a different strategy there.
And he's making Romain Grosjean's life very hard. This is the sound on board Grosjean and now on board Charles Leclerc. Down the gears. Into the swimming pool, underneath our commentary box, and Leclerc, another little look. Grosjean, this is going to be horrible for him. Just seeing flash of the Scarlet Ferrari all over his mirrors. It's a matter of time before Leclerc just sticks a lunge in. He doesn't look a particularly patient guy today. He wants to make up for that real mishap in qualifying from Ferrari. He's on the medium tyres. He needs to get ahead of Nico Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg is the first runner on the medium tyres. Lando Norris was on the medium tyres and started ahead of Leclerc, so that was a crucial pass as well. All the runners on the soft will pit sooner. When they pit, they will unleash Charles Leclerc into some more clean air, but if Hülkenberg is on the same strategy, he's going to end up behind the Renault, so that's the real key pass that he needs to do. Get some clean air later on in the race.
That's 6 of 78, Jenny Gao.
Yes, and it's looking like this is going to be a one-stop race for most people. And if you're doing a one-stop to go onto a hard tyre, then you'd come in from lap 10, 22, do the one-stop and go back out. If you want to go onto the medium tyre, Pirelli suggests somewhere between lap 18 and 25. So I will keep an eagle eye on the pit lane. What's going on?
Quite a big window, really, to make your pit stop, depending on how you're running the strategy. And last lap, Valtteri Bottas took another 10th out of Lewis Hamilton, so the gap is back down to 1.1 seconds. And again, Leclerc gonna just knock his front wing off if he's not too careful.
He's doing actually a really good job at putting Grosjean off. And Grosjean now is getting very close to the back of Nico Hülkenberg as well. So he opens the DRS and gets on to, or nearly onto terms with the Renault ahead. But Leclerc, this is all he can do. Not close enough to go for a lunge. Just go a bit wacky with your racing lines. Be all over the back of Grosjean's mirrors and distract your rival. And he's very, very close now at the top of the hill at Massenet, then into Casino, and now we've got some overtaking chances once again. Grosjean just looks quick enough in the key moments there.
Forward with with Charles Leclerc behind Grosjean, then into the hairpin. Cooper lays on the brakes. Leclerc, he's clearly quicker, but there have been so many examples in Monaco over the years of drivers unable to pass despite having quicker cars. Ayrton Senna's win in 1993 with Nigel Mansell all over the back of him. David Coulthard, about the year 2002 I think it was, got stuck behind Enrique Benoldi's arrows for the whole race. Charles Leclerc is experiencing that now.
I fancy Leclerc for that hairpin next lap.
Yeah.
We were on board with him there, and he was really just bolted behind Grosjean. They're all bunching up so much for that really tight hairpin. He's done that move once before. He's really, really close behind Grosjean now, coming in up to Raskas. Maybe he can have a look here now.
Oh, he goes for it this time. Up the inside goes Leclerc. The crowd on their feet and cheer. There's a little bit of a wheel bang, but good, robust stuff from Charles Leclerc to move up into 12th place. Next man on his list, Nico Hülkenberg.
There we go. This is overtaking in Monaco. This is what we need to see. And Leclerc then is always argy-bargy. You can never have the safest of moves here, but he just threw his car down the inside. Grosjean would have been aware. Leclerc's been looking like that for the last 5 or so laps, just every time showing a nose. This time he's done it.
Understood. We'll look at it.
Kamikaze, says Romain Grosjean.
Oh, get alive. Come on, this is Monaco. What do you want him to do? Wait for you to open the door? You've got to do a kamikaze move, and he did it very well. So no complaints there. When there's no investigation that's going to be seen. They had a little wheel bang when Leclerc was clean on the inside, but I'm afraid that's been a while coming, but a very, very nice move in the end for Charles Leclerc.
Your best overtake at Monaco?
I did two. I did one exactly that move on the inside of Raskas on Sergio Canamassas in 2013. It was kamikaze as well, but
Kamikaze on Canamassas.
Yeah, I know, it was a risky one. But then I did one for the lead at Sainte-Devote as well, Mitch Evans.
Lap 9 of 78. Immediately, Charles Leclerc is onto the back of Nico Hülkenberg. Here he goes again. Hülkenberg closes the door, and he just about squeezes up the inside. No, they make contact. Leclerc spins around. Is the car broken? He's dropped 2 positions now. Goes side by side with Norris through the final corner. In the end, only drops 1. And now that's going to put Norris under big pressure from Lance Stroll behind in the racing point. But he's not going to be quite close enough to make the move. But it looked as though Leclerc had pulled off the same feat as previous. There was contact on the exit of the corner, and Leclerc had a little half sideways spin, and he's back in the race.
Right, let's have another look at this one. It was way tighter. That one was too tight for Leclerc to get through there. Hülkenberg didn't open the door as much as Grosjean, and that gap that Leclerc closed.
Leclerc has a puncture. He clipped the Armco on the right-hand side. It's over for Leclerc. He's halfway around the lap, and the Rubber is peeling off the rim of the tyre. He's struggling to make it around the corners. He's now coming out into the tunnel. He's caught a whole queue behind him. Pretty dangerous heading through the tunnel now. Charles Leclerc tries to keep out of the racing line, but that is the race run pretty much for the Ferrari driver. If he can get back to the pits, he's going to be causing all sorts of damage to that car.
Yeah, he's had the crash at the worst possible moment of the last corner, and he's gone past the pit lane. So tell you what, driving Monaco is difficult best of times, let alone with 3 wheels. Leclerc's getting round as quick as he can and somehow keeping out of the barriers, but there's now rubber flailing around the rear tyre, and that is going to be a horrible retire job. There's bodywork now as well.
The whole of the canvas has released itself from inside the tyre, and it is bashing and bashing the floor of the car. I'd be surprised if he can get out and carry on in the Grand Prix. Thoughts back to 1979 and Gilles Villeneuve driving around Zandvoort with 3 wheels on his car. Leclerc into the pits now, Jenny, and I'm not sure if he'll be able to continue. They'll have a good check over of the car.
Yeah, they'll get him back out, which they've immediately done, and I have to tell you, it absolutely stinks down here.
Red Bull coming out into the pit lane. I wonder if they are anticipating a full course yellow, or a virtual safety car rather, because of all the debris on the circuit. Leclerc loses a lap. Charles Leclerc loses a lap to the race leaders. He comes out just behind the 2 Mercedes, first and second, and now Verstappen in third, and he's only just in front of his teammate Sebastian Vettel, so that's the worst possible moment for Leclerc as well. Now a lap down on everyone else.
He's going to have a severely damaged car as well. There was bodywork that came off with the rubber flailing from his puncture. He will now have a damaged car, I'm sure. He needs a safety car. He needs some rain and a safety car, and it's not all over. Safety car chance in Monaco is reasonably high. The barriers
Safety car deployed.
There we go.
Here's Hamilton's radio.
As I start to fall apart.
Now Hamilton saying the car's starting to fall apart. Will everyone pit on this lap? Mercedes are ready, Ferrari are ready, Red Bull are ready. Safety car deployed in the Monaco Grand Prix to pick up the debris from Charles Leclerc's Ferrari car. Well, might be able to unlap himself in this scenario. That's the only problem.
I think Vettel and Verstappen are in position to take advantage. What they that they're driving now. Verstappen's got a pick to come out. Or they stay out.
So they are out the pit lane with tyres. So are Ferrari and so are Red Bull. At the moment, the order is Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, and Vettel, and Bottas backing them up. They're double stacking. Valtteri Bottas backing all of the cars up underneath our commentary box to give the team a chance to hit Lewis Hamilton, release him. Then Bottas comes to the pit now, as does Vettel, as does Verstappen. It's a straight pit lane race. Away goes Bottas, and Verstappen's got a good one, and they're right together, coming down. And I think Verstappen might have got it. They just disappeared out of view. They're side by side. Verstappen is up into second position. The FIA will look at it to see whether it's a safe pit lane release, but Verstappen emerges now in front of Valtteri Bottas and in front of Sebastian Vettel. Really swift pit stop by the Red Bull team, but Mercedes are not going to be impressed.
Right, the job from Red Bull. I'm worried that that's an unsafe release. You're not allowed to go too wide in the pit lane. Monaco is so narrow. That's exactly what happened. That's really in the path of Bottas. Red Bull was so get him out ahead. It's work. He is ahead, and I think the FIA may well look at that. But also, Bottas bunched up the pack. Now, I'm not sure that's quite said that he did well. So
There are rules, aren't there, of how far you can be behind the car, behind the safety car.
Exactly. That's what done in Budapest back about 2010.
Well, what's terrible?
I don't know if you're damaged.
The wall says about Bottas. The difference, Jenny, you've got a good view of that, obviously. The here is that the pit lane is slower, so it looks less dramatic. The sort of releasing into the path.
Yeah, out here on the 80. I have to say, when it was the end of all garage now, they still let one of those cars, well, little black bit flicked up in the air. But I said yesterday when I was pit lane, they double stack and over it. Garage, anyone else, cars not able to do that. So they
Valtteri Bottas again to put on the hard compound of tyre. So, well, they just changed the tyres. No, nothing with the bodywork or anything like that. So that's going to drop Bottas behind Vettel now. But presumably he will run to the end of the race and they will think that Vettel will have to stop again. No, Vettel went out on hard. So Bottas actually, in all of that drama, went out on the medium. When Verstappen and Vettel went out on hard, now Bottas lost the effect, put on the same tyre, drive front, and Hamilton got the tyre as well out front. If they think the hard's better, then Hamilton also on the wrong tyre out front.
Yeah, I can Bottas.
Okay, so that would be when he was in the wall, side by side with Verstappen. So that's why the 50,000 Bottas then. So now you've got Hamilton lead the Grand Prix. Verstappen second, still behind the safety car. Hamilton on medium tyres. Verstappen and Vettel are on hard tyres. Bottas fourth on hard tyres as well. The other with the safety car back there. So they're going to do it, but also they could cars in front of the race.
Yeah, obviously they were able to take control of that. Like Bottas, that everybody else up. Well, Hamilton come in. Bottas lost time, but have I saw a little bit of the car flick up. Well, that obviously was in damage. Bottas, they must be all over the FIA now. They investigate, look at it, tell us what's going on. Can't be allowed. Some races get so fast, here not one.
Monaco for it. I think that I do think that could be under investigation. First, the release. Secondly, Verstappen effectively put Bottas. Bottas had no choice, but he put it. Red Bull super aggressive. I think in the heat of the moment there, they've done an unsafe release, and then he did basically end up. So they'll look at that. I'm fairly sure. Now Verstappen second, Vettel and third. The auction match is taken up behind 12. Gaz now fifth, have not pitted in the red. Carlo was there slowly. Hit down to 13, now kept back behind the whole third. Down 8, down Carlo. So Hamilton on Verstappen, Vettel and Bottas second, third, fourth, and hard. Then you've got Gaz fifth, Sainz, Albon and Grosjean top 9. They're all still on the top tyres of the race. Just before the safety car came out, Hamilton saying the tyres falling apart. Sure how long that gaggle will go. Safety car will be back. Daniel Ricciardo. So safety car coming in at the end of this lap. Lewis Hamilton now slows down to get the race back underway. We'll head to Wembley in a couple of moments to get the team of the Charles Sun playoff final. But just watch this race start. The safety car comes in after drama caused by Charles Leclerc's puncture. Debris going all over the circuit. Hamilton now comes towards our conference box. Wait to see when he decides to floor the throttle and get racing back underway. Still going slowly up to Ratchat. Through the right hand he comes. And now he's floored it, coming into the final corner. So Hamilton out across the line to restart the Monaco Grand Prix on lap 15 of 78. Hamilton in the lead. He is 8 tenths of a second ahead of Verstappen in second. Vettel in third, Bottas fourth. No notification yet that those are under investigation, but almost certain that they will be. Behind the top four, it's Gasly 5th, Sainz 6th, Kvyat 7th, Albon 8th, 9th for Grosjean, 10th for Lando Norris, Stroll, Raikkonen, Ricciardo, Magnussen, Kubica the top 15. Giovinazzi, Perez, Hulkenberg, Russell and Leclerc, the 20 drivers. Leclerc at least is the lap down, but if it's going to be tough from 15th, it's even tougher now. Bottas is right behind Vettel.
Sebastian Vettel just had the moment of his life coming out of Casino. He was fishtailing almost broadside, just trying to get the power down. And he knows he's got a silver Mercedes behind him, and Bottas is going to be close now coming down towards the straight.
Yeah, Bottas is right behind Vettel for third place. Here they come, emerging out into the sunshine, and actually ended up drifting a little bit further away there, and then has a bit of a twitch himself coming into that corner. So it's Lewis Hamilton leading the Grand Prix, and second place is Max Verstappen, third is Sebastian Vettel. Now at 3 o'clock, we have the kickoff in the League One playoff final. Charlton versus Sunderland. Chris Wise is there, and he has the team news. Thank you very much for that, Chris. Meanwhile, Robert Kubica has just been sent spinning around at La Rascasse, possibly a collision, and he is blocking the circuit. Now everybody has managed to get through. Charles Leclerc, I think it would have been Antonio Giovinazzi that Kubica came together with. Here they came into Rascasse, up the inside went Giovinazzi, and he was kind of nowhere near, really, making that move and spun Kubica around. They're all back going again, so no safety cars. But, yeah, now down to 18.
Even actually backed out of it massively in the end, just spun Kubica, I should say. A messy one. The door looked like it was open, but then sort of panicked, absolutely backed out of it. And Kubica now 18, Giovinazzi to the back. Smart from Leclerc just to get around Giovinazzi.
Jenny, how are we looking weather-wise? 90% chance of rain, we were told earlier on.
Yeah, flags are rippling above me and a very dark cloud left. I have to say there's a bits and spots of rain just starting to come down, but it's almost nothing. I will.
Hey, thank you very much for that. But another replay of Verstappen's pit release earlier on that put Bottas in the wall, and Palmer's shaking his head.
I mean, how you can argue it, really. Bottas was in the fast lane. He wasn't just released because there was the Ferrari of Vettel in between. Bottas was in the fast lane, and Verstappen was, and did put him in the pit wall. So I don't see how Red Bull can argue that. Great that Verstappen's in second, but
Charles Leclerc in the pits again, and I wonder if it's going to be the end of his race. He pulls in now, pulls up into the box. No, they're going for another tyre change on the soft compound of tyre then. Away he goes, bit of a slow stop, but going to affect him. And, quite sure what that is for Charles Leclerc.
Idea on that one, but Leclerc was at the back where he just passed Antonio Giovinazzi, but he's in a bit of a long race back. I mean, hopefully for everyone else's sake, he can get back to the back and start getting some Larry overtakes going again, because there was so aggressive early on. It was some good action, but right now the action is at the front, and it's Valtteri Bottas, I think, on Sebastian Vettel is the closest one. The Mercedes hasn't been outside of the...
I'm the first one to not give up, but I'm telling you, the car is extremely difficult to drive.
Claire saying, I'm the first one not to give up. Last one to give up, but I want to give up is basically what he's
criticising his English whilst he's in the middle of a Formula 1 career in his second language. I mean, a bit harsh maybe. He had so much damage on the floor of his car. That is going to handle like a pig now for the rest of the Grand Prix. 60 laps to go. He's already at the back. Won't be pleasant. His home race, he doesn't want to give up. He wants to give these fans something to cheer about. There's so many of them supporting here. But that is going to be just an unpleasant afternoon now for him.
Comes Sebastian Vettel into the chicane at the end of the tunnel. Lewis Hamilton leading the way. 9/10 of a second only ahead of Max Verstappen, so he's still within DRS range, Verstappen. Not really putting Hamilton under a super amount of pressure, with Sebastian Vettel in third and Valtteri Bottas in fourth. And Leclerc, I think, has got his wish here. He goes up on the jacks. The trolley is slid underneath the car, and that is the race over for Charles Leclerc. A race that promised so much coming into the weekend. A disastrous qualifying yesterday. The race was looking good. The crowd were all on their feet cheering every time he made a move coming into Rascasse, which was right outside our commentary box window. And just as he disappeared around the other side of it, battling with Nico Hülkenberg, that was basically race at 19 of 78. Hamilton, Verstappen, Vettel, Bottas, Gasly the top 5. Sainz, Kvyat, Albon, Grosjean, Norris the top 10. Where we are at the moment, it's close, really. The top 5 all separated by just 7 seconds.
And that is because Hamilton's backing the pack up now. Hamilton's lapping around Oh, he's 2.7 seconds slower than his best lap of the race so far. He's on the medium tyres, but he can go a lot quicker than Hamilton. He knows he just tries to the end of the race and he'll win it. Still, there could be some rain. It's rain, overcast now over the circuit, but no rain as yet. And if there's not, Hamilton and Verstappen in second place is under investigation still. Don't know the outcome of that one yet. But yeah, Hamilton's backing back up to the tune that tapping at the same pace as Kvyat's. And they're all whole field now bunched up in a line behind Hamilton out front.
Can he make it to on the tyres when the three drivers behind are on the harder, longer-lasting tyre?
Yeah, that's why he just knows the car. If it's quick in the right parts, he can manage this race at a slow pace. Last year, Daniel Ricciardo in this won the Grand Prix with had a problem. Hamilton's car. He's a wily guy. He's won a few races. He's won 5 World Drivers' Championships. He knows how to control this one, and he's on the tyres that would be the end of the Grand Prix on the tyres. So he just burst them, particularly in the earlier laps and that tyre life, because they on damage.
That 20 of 78 in the Monaco Grand Prix here on BBC Radio 5 Live. Farmer Jack Nicholls, Jenny Gow with you. Is there any thought that as well as secondary motivation to that is if Hamilton is kind of slowing the field down, that might give Bottas the chance to attack Sebastian Vettel, or is that not going to be in his... Actually, he's not going to help his teammate that he's battling with the championship?
Absolutely not. That would be not in Lewis Hamilton's mind right now. He's on the medium tyres, the 3 behind him are on the hards. If he pushes hell for leather, he'll be able to create a bit of a gap, but he'll be in a worse position at the end of the race. So he knows he's just got to look after the tyres right now. And he's starting to pick up the pace by a few tenths on that last lap. But as he does, everyone does behind as well. So Pierre Gasly, Carlos Sainz and the McLaren, the 2 Toro Rossos and Romain Grosjean have all just simultaneously done the fastest laps of their Grand Prix, matching Hamilton's pace. So it's all just follow the leader at the moment.
I have to say, speaking to Pirelli before the race started, they're the tyre suppliers. They reckon you can get about 50 laps maximum out of those medium tyres. And obviously Lewis Hamilton has a little bit more than that to do on them.
Question. Does James think I'm in trouble with these tyres? Driving super slow now.
Put this into context, 21 laps in the Grand Prix, and the fastest driver out on track is George Britt in the Williams, down in 17th.
Driver.
About a second quicker than Lewis Hamilton out front, and he's on a harder compound of tyres. So Hamilton is driving like a granny right now. He's driving like a granny. He doesn't have a feel for the tyres. He's just driving around. Are the tyres going to go? I don't know, because I'm nowhere near the limit.
And his radio question was to James Vowles, the chief strategist at the Mercedes Formula One team, asking, James, think I'm in trouble here? I'm driving around so slowly just to try and make these tyres last. And this is kind of Grand Prix that we saw last year. The leaders are all right together, but they're not absolutely on the limit. But surely if you're Verstappen in second, can't you push more just to overtake Hamilton?
Why is Verstappen not pushing now? That's what I want to know. I've not seen Verstappen have a single slide, trying to get on the power to following him round 8 tenths away, but Verstappen, he's driving like a granny. They're all driving like grannies in this Grand Prix, apart from maybe George Russell.
I think we should probably cut the granny stick. Maybe.
But in Formula One terms, right, they are so far off the pace. Maybe it's doing grannies a disservice right now. But, you know, Hamilton can go seconds quicker than this. Formula One, that is absolute golf, really. So it's Verstappen needs to try and put the hammer down and put pressure on the Hamilton. That's how he's going to make a difference. Because on the harder tyres, on the hard tyres, Hamilton's on the medium. To force Hamilton to drive quicker, then it's work out better for him later on because he have a tyre advantage.
The results are in. It is a time penalty for Max Verstappen of 5 seconds. So a 5-second time penalty for Max Verstappen because of that unsafe release. So that's a penalty that at the moment would send him back down to 8th position. But he's now got the whole race to try and counteract the effects of that 5-second penalty. It's not going to be easy because he's got Vettel and Bottas right behind him, but it hasn't wrecked his race in the way that a drive-through penalty or something like that would cost him 20 seconds.
That's a reprieve for Max Verstappen then. 5 seconds.
Is that fair, or has he got away with that? Still gained the places.
Still gained the place, but he is net down right now. 5 seconds would put him behind Carlos Sainz in the McLaren. Now, the level of the penalty right now is determined by Lewis Hamilton, the race leader out front, because Hamilton just backs Verstappen into everyone behind. Verstappen doesn't have a choice but to drop behind when he takes those 5 seconds at the end of the Grand Prix. He's not going to be coming in for another pit stop unless something goes wrong.
Yeah, I think I'd take those 5 seconds, as you were just alluding to, Jolie. And if he comes in and does another pit stop, he would serve those 5 seconds before the team can then get to work on changing his tyres. If he doesn't come in again as is expected, then that's fine. He just adds 5 seconds on at the end of the race.
And now, this is going to be interesting, because this will force Verstappen to push. And in forcing Verstappen to push, that may well force Hamilton to push.
Be good for the Grand Prix, because Verstappen now has to make Hamilton go quicker. He cannot just sit behind Lewis Hamilton, take second place. He needs to start getting some better lap times in. And there is now a bit of a gap appearing. Valtteri Bottas very close to Sebastian Vettel here.
Yep, he's really, really close. Let's just see whether he's able to get close enough coming out of the tunnel. They turn through the right-hander now and accelerate up to the fastest point on the circuit. They're all dropping Pierre Gasly for 5th position. Does Bottas fancy a move this time? No, he's a bit too far back. The Finnish driver for Mercedes running in 4th place. Let's head a couple of 100 miles north to Paris and check in at the French Open Day 1 with Russell Fuller. Wow, thank you very much, Russell. We'll keep you up to date here on 5 Live with the French Open over the coming weeks. But here it is the Monaco Grand Prix at the moment, with Lewis Hamilton leading on lap 25 of 78. But he's got Max Verstappen right behind him in the Red Bull. Sebastian Vettel 3rd, Valtteri Bottas 4th. Those 4 are pulling away. Bottas is the closest of any of them to anyone on the back of Sebastian Vettel. And while we were getting that update from Russell, Hamilton got a pretty concerning radio message.
Rain in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Do you think that'll worry him, or?
Not really. Right now, it will worry Max Verstappen more, because if they all have to pit, he's then got to take his 5 seconds in the pit stop, which will then drop him back behind Vettel, back behind Bottas, and probably down to 4. Radio.
Everything okay?
Just being a 5-second time penalty for the pit lane. Obviously, we can take that at a pit stop. There's any rain about. It will be added to our race time at the end. Or, of course, you can overtake Hamilton and drive off into the distance. So, yeah, I'll leave that with you, mate. No risks.
There we go. So that's
love it. That is such a great radio message there for Max Verstappen. Either we'll take it in the pit stop, or we'll take it at the end of the race if there's no rain and we don't pit, or just go and take the race lead from the 5-time world champion that's controlling the race ahead. I'm sure Red Bull would prefer the last one. I'm sure Max Verstappen would prefer the last one, but he's got to go and do it, and that is the tricky bit around Monaco. But clearly now, the race has changed for Verstappen. He can't just sit in behind Hamilton going this pace. He's got to try and pressure him into a mistake, or at least going quicker, and he can open up that gap to the drivers behind.
If you're Max Verstappen, would you accept that decision, do you think? Like, obviously drivers get angry and everything's unfair, you know, like all sports people, but there must be a part of Verstappen that goes, yeah, that was probably a bit.
Oh, he'll have known it. He'll have known that coming out of the pits. I think he'll be happy with a 5-second penalty. You can hear the way he was asking, is everything okay? It's like, he knows he's guilty, doesn't he, with that one? But I think he'll take that. He's really close to the back of Lewis Hamilton now. Hamilton and Vettel, when he's under pressure, just need to be quick at the right points, but Verstappen's close down to turn 1.
Really close coming into Saint-Devote. Hamilton almost had to cover the inside line, so Verstappen has decided now is the time to push, and this will be concerning for Hamilton because he needs to try and look after his tyres. Lap 27 of 78. We've got a race on between Hamilton and Verstappen for the lead of the Monaco Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel in third, Valtteri Bottas in fourth. They come down into the Mirabeau, then into the Lowe's hairpin, and Verstappen has dropped away just a little bit at the moment. If you want more motor racing, then catch up on the Formula E race from Berlin tonight on the red button at 8 p.m. or watch it again at any time on the BBC iPlayer. They splash through the tunnel now and out into the relative sunshine, a little bit overclouded, but certainly the brightness. Get onto the brakes into the chicane, and Vettel's coming with them as well, and you can guarantee that if Verstappen is having a go at Hamilton, Vettel will want to be close enough to stick a nose in too.
Yes, we've got about 10 laps of the equivalent of a safety car, basically, controlled by Lewis Hamilton. And everyone was just happy to sit at that pace. But now Verstappen's not, and he's declared a race of it at the front. He's very, very close to Hamilton now. Up to Raskas. This is where he got the closest he's been so far. And he's getting the DRS as well as they cross over the start-finish line. But I think he's a bit too far back once again this time. Yeah, Gasly's in the...
Just to let you know, a few drops of rain now coming down. The forecast for Hamilton was 5 minutes. That 5 minutes up. So, a few drops. Is it going to get heavier? I think it might be about to.
Okay, Hamilton then leading the Grand Prix, just 0.6 of a second ahead of Max Verstappen. How much do you have to overrule what you're seeing when it just starts to spit with rain?
Massively. You start to get some spots of rain on the visor, but the track right now is will be bone dry. You've still got to drive it like you've got the usual amount of grip in cloudy conditions, and the rain, when it lands, it just doesn't. It's not at the moment heavy enough to make any difference. But at some point, you're going to find out if it is, because you just feel a little bit of a slide somewhere or a lock-up, and it gets much harder.
Starting to rain a bit.
That's Carlos Sainz in the McLaren saying it's starting to rain a bit, and some of the folks in the grandstand in front of us are standing up and pulling on their ponchos as the rain begins to drip down. Not a huge amount, I'd say only 10% have decided to reach for the cagoules, but it is interesting and see whether or how that affects Hamilton out in the lead of the Grand Prix. Across the line again. Once again, it is just 0.6 of a second between Hamilton in the lead and Verstappen in second. And they're now starting to drop Sebastian Vettel in third. And they're going a couple of seconds quicker than they were a few laps ago.
Yeah, they're now driving at a sensible pace. The rain's starting to come. Ironically, the conditions are getting worse and they're going quicker. But Verstappen is pressurising Hamilton now. Hamilton's having to drive a bit in his mirrors. Still doesn't want to try and unleash the absolute pace from the Mercedes because he's still worried about the tyres if the rain doesn't materialise. But Verstappen is just keeping him on his toes right now. And the last lap round, he was 1.5 seconds ahead of Sebastian Vettel. So still not enough for the 5 seconds, but if he can keep up the pace chasing Hamilton, he might be able to pull away from the Ferrari behind, but staying with them on this lap around.
Again they come. Merge past the newly built Monaco Yacht Club on their left-hand side, then swing left at the Tobacconist's corner. Down to the swimming pool where they swing left and then right around the outside of it, then left and back alongside of it before underneath the commentary box and round Raskas again. Still 0.6 of a second, and Verstappen actually is pretty quick around Raskas and out of the final corner. That's where he tends to be closest to Lewis Hamilton. Then he gets the DRS as well as they come.
Okay, you are the quickest car on track. The sight's just about in the window. Just keep your head down, this is good.
A couple of years ago in his debut season, Max Verstappen, where he ploughed into the back of Romain Grosjean and went flying into the wall. Hoping not to repeat that. Hamilton, Verstappen, Vettel, Bottas, Sainz, the top 5 on lap 30 of 78 in the Monaco Grand Prix.
And for Lewis Hamilton, he's got a Red Bull behind him, a Red Bull who's got a 5-second time penalty and needs to pass him. He's probably got spots of rain now on his visor as well to make life a bit harder. He's having to earn this right now, Lewis Hamilton. This is not a plain sailing race. It was for him about 15 laps ago now. This is the key time now with the rain coming down and with Verstappen having his tail up in second place. Hamilton's just got to have his wits about him. They're still lapping at a similar pace to those behind, so he's not absolutely picked up the pace, Lewis Hamilton. He's got so much left in the tank, he's just measuring it still. Pace is the same as Daniel Kvyat's Toro Rosso down in 6th. And Pierre Gasly, by the way, when he pitted in the Red Bull, pitted and came out well ahead of Daniel Ricciardo in the Renault. So he is now in a net 5th place. And Ricciardo's early pit stop under the safety car has backfired massively for the Renault team.
Which is surprising, because that would have been the no-brainer call, I would have thought.
is you lose so much track position. If people don't stay out, you get clean air, and you can pick up the pace. I don't know where Ricciardo lost all the time, though. Could have been on the tail safety car, and they're all looking at a similar speed. But somehow he's fallen a long way back. Carlos Sainz is in the pits now from 5th position as well, so that midfield will take up a little bit.
At the moment, 5th and 6th is now Daniel Kvyat and Alexander Albon in the Toro Rossos, but they are yet to pit. Up at the front, Verstappen is still 0.6 of a second behind Lewis Hamilton. Very, very close to each other as they turn left through the right-hander of Portier, where Ayrton Senna crashed out of the lead of the race in 1988 and walked back to his apartment and stayed there pretty much for the rest of the evening. Hamilton down onto the brakes. Kane carries on his way. He's made a few mistakes there in the past, Lewis Hamilton. I think in the race last year, he skipped over it when he was fighting for the lead. That may have been 2 years ago, and then two offs there yesterday in qualifying. But at the moment, still in front of Max Verstappen, but only just Verstappen again, super close coming into Raskas.
He just needs to get out of the final corner well, and he will have a look at Lewis Hamilton down into the first corner. But Hamilton knows it, he's aware. Verstappen's never close enough into Raskas. That's where we saw Leclerc pass Grosjean in kamikaze move. He then did a kamikaze move on Hulkenberg and effectively ended the race. But Verstappen's not as close as Leclerc was to the back of the car in front. That's why he's just going wide and opening it up on the exit.
Left front's opening up.
Left front's opening up, says Lewis Hamilton. Quite sure what he means by that terminology. Let's go down to Jenny.
Yeah, just having a look at what the team's doing, if they're going to have a look at going on to the... Certainly not wet enough yet. I mean, the rain seems to be disappearing as fast as it came, and the tarmac's warm, so I don't think anyone's going to make the move, and Carlos Sainz came in for McLaren and went on to a pair of the mediums, so it's all hold at the moment.
And Sainz came out in front comfortably of Daniel Ricciardo and Kevin Magnussen, so he's good. Net 6th place at the moment.
Ricciardo and Magnussen, their race is going to pot right now. They are down in 13th and 14th. The problem is they're lapping 3 seconds slower than Daniel Kvyat, who's got clear air at the front. Kvyat is now the fastest man on track, going 1.2 seconds quicker than race leader Lewis Hamilton. Only in Monaco does this happen, but it shows how much Lewis Hamilton is still managing the pace. So when he says the left front is opening up, again, I'm not entirely sure what he means, but those tyres will be fine.
Into the pits now comes Daniel Kvyat in the Toro Rosso then. So where is he going to emerge? Will it be right at the front of the order? And he comes now on the soft tyres that have pretty much have done 33 laps on the track. Not all of them at full racing speed, thanks to the safety car. He's going to emerge then now from the pit lane behind Pierre Gasly. He's going to be just behind Carlos Sainz. He'll have the inside for the exit and the run up the hill, but no, Sainz takes 6th position, then, or what will be a net 6th place once everyone has pitted. So this is turning out to be a very good day for Carlos Sainz, who started in 9th place. He's now in a net 6th, and Daniel Kvyat actually started in 7th place. So he's actually lost out in the grand scheme of the Grand Prix.
But he lost 2 places at the start, Kvyat. He was the loser on the first lap that fell from 7th to 9th. He's now made those 2 back up because Ricciardo and Magnussen are going to be the losers race right now. Verstappen's close again through the swimming pool underneath our commentary box, and a little bit wide with the lock up at Raskas. He's starting to pressure Lewis Hamilton now.
Tiny little lock up there for Verstappen. Comes out over the start finish straight once more. They come through to start lap 34 of 78 in the Monaco Grand Prix. They're dropping Sebastian Vettel just a little bit. Vettel is only 8 tenths ahead of Valtteri Bottas, but not looking quite as aggressive, Bottas, as Max Verstappen is on the back of Hamilton. And Verstappen is really close as they come up the hill through the left-hander that then takes them past the casino on the right-hand side. Then dropping down the hill, Verstappen. Right-hander at Mirabeau. Just got to wait for that one chance, I suppose.
Yeah, he needs to start getting in Hamilton's mirrors. Leclerc earlier on was doing a fantastic job of just showing his Ferrari all over Grosjean's mirrors. Every single braking zone, he was just darting out and was never close enough to go for a move until he did it, and he did it cleanly in the end on Grosjean. But every time he was starting out and making sure that Grosjean attracted as much as possible, Verstappen's got to start doing that. He's got a bright yellow nose on the front of his Red Bull car. That can distract Hamilton. But Hamilton's a wise customer, and it will take a big error for him to lose this one, and a lapse of concentration, I should say. But right now, Verstappen's trying all he can.
Is it different for Verstappen because Leclerc had such a quicker car than the guys he was trying to overtake, that if he noses to the inside or shows a little nose here, he can then catch back up straight away? Whereas if Verstappen does something to put Hamilton off that costs him a tiny bit of time, it'll take him longer to get back up to the back of Mercedes?
Yep, I mean, clearly the Ferrari car compared to the cars that Leclerc was trying to pass, the Haas and the Renault, he had a big advantage there. Whereas Verstappen in the Red Bull, he was out-qualified by Hamilton. So he doesn't have the outright pace if Hamilton, especially flat out. But just got to keep trying to do something. Driving nice and neatly and waiting for Hamilton probably won't make him. Hamilton. He's got to try and start putting a nose where Hamilton's not expecting him. Make Hamilton look in the mirrors as he's turning in instead of just looking nicely at the apex, the exit, and so on and so on.
Tires are so bad now. Cars just can't get around the corners.
In the Monaco Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton leading, Verstappen second, Vettel third, Bottas is fourth, Alexander Albon is fifth but has yet to stop, Romain Grosjean is sixth and is yet to stop, and it's Gasly, Sainz, Kvyat, Norris the top 10, Stroll, Raikkonen, Ricciardo, Magnussen, Perez the top 15, Hulkenberg, Russell, Giovinazzi and Kubica the 19 runners, Charles Leclerc the only Monegasque racer and the first Monegasque racer in the Monaco Grand Prix since 1994, is the only retirement from the race, unfortunately, after he picked up a puncture earlier on, trying to overtake Nico Hulkenberg. Hamilton has led since the start. Verstappen with a forceful pit lane release got himself a bit of second.
Had you considered putting the hard tyre on me?
Yeah, if we stop again, Lewis, yeah, we would go for the hard, but looking okay at the moment. Verstappen also looks like he has grading front left. What's yours?
Okay, so Verstappen, after getting that second place, does have a 5-second time penalty, which he's now managed to out. So actually, he'd only come out just behind Valtteri Bottas. He's in fourth place if the race were to finish now. So he has got a chance of still securing a podium here, Max Verstappen. That 5-second time penalty, despite that 5-second time penalty. Hamilton asking, you know, have we thought about going onto the hard tyres? If he goes onto the hard tyres now, he's not winning the Grand Prix.
No chance. Track position is key in Monaco, and Hamilton still in control of this race. He's at the front, and overtaking is not easy. So we're talking graining then on the tyres. The front left of Hamilton, left of Verstappen. Is when basically the tyres are sliding on the surface, and the rubber just starts to ball up on the surface of the tyre, and you start to get less grip as a result. That's graining. I can imagine it's because they're going sort of so slowly. They're actually maybe out of the temperature window, and that's why the driver's starting to have this graining on the front left, and then you go slower and slower, and through a right-hand corner, you just start understeering more and more. The outside front always does the work, so maybe that is now a slight cause for concern for Lewis Hamilton, but his pace has been on this set of tyres. Now, I don't think he's done one proper push lap on them.
So we've got a Monaco Grand Prix that at the moment is reasonably living up to the hype, where sometimes it can under-deliver. The League One playoff final, will that live up to the hype? It's Charlton versus Sunderland, and Chris Wise is there. Last time Charlton were there was that Sunderland match. First division playoff as it was then, 4-all, and then Charlton won on penalties. We're on lap 37 of 78 here, and Lewis Hamilton is just holding the lead of the Grand Prix. Jolyon Palmer, Jack Nicholls, and down in the pit lane is Jenny Gow.
Yes, and I have to say, we've heard Pete Bonington, Lewis Hamilton's race engineer, just speaking very calmly to him, trying to reassure him. And it's so important, that relationship between your engineer and you, just saying, don't worry, don't let us do all of that. You just get out there and drive. Don't concentrate on anything else.
Yeah, well, that's easier said than done.
Absolutely. There is a dark band appearing on the left front of Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen's tyres. Now, that is graining. That is, clearly, they are not in position. Still, they're managing to stretch the gap to Vettel, still a second and a half, and another second and a half back from Bottas. But they are probably nursing their tyres a little bit more, waiting to attack later on. So this could play into the hands of both Vettel and Bottas if they're looking after their tyres slightly better. The reason that Ricciardo has dropped back is because Lando Norris is on a medium tyre. He's not pitted, and he's lapping slowly in 10th position still. He's bunching up that pack behind, which is holding back Stroll, Raikkonen, then Ricciardo and Magnussen, who were up running so well earlier on. That's why everyone further up is able to just keep going, pit, and come out ahead of them. Albon's going to be the latest one in 5th position, and he is lapping a good 2 seconds a lap quicker than Ricciardo. It's badly for him.
Across the line comes Lewis Hamilton again to start lap 39 of 78. 0.8 of a second ahead of Max Verstappen, with Vettel in 3rd, Bottas in 4th, Albon in 5th, Grosjean in 6th. Have yet to stop, the two of them. And there's a nice little battle going on between Kimi Raikkonen and Lance Stroll.
Again, it just drives into me.
We saw it, Kimi.
So Raikkonen and Stroll have had a little bit of a bump at La Rascasse. They've now had a little bit of a bump at the Lowe's hairpin, and he's getting a bit frustrated there, Kimi Raikkonen.
Yeah, sorry, it's Norris. It's not Norris, it's Stroll that's backing up those drivers behind. Starting with Raikkonen, Stroll locked up the left front into Lowe's. Now, the drivers clearly are struggling with graining. Even though Hamilton's been driving around, this is probably why, because the graining seems to be a thing. The front left, that's what Stroll locked up. He hasn't pitted, nor has Norris. They're both lapping slowly, and they're bunching up all the drivers behind. I think Stroll was a bit rude to Kimi Raikkonen there.
The others just holding back, or they're struggling to keep up.
Behind overtake here.
Hamilton being told the drivers behind are keeping it steady. Are we on for another 4-4, Chris Wise? A goal already at Wembley. Thank you, Chris. We are on lap 40 of 78 here in the Monaco Grand Prix. I saw a clip earlier of, I think it was a Dutch game, and the ref scored. The ball was bouncing around in the penalty area, and the ref volleyed it in accidentally. It's incredible. So if you can find that on social media, I'd highly recommend it. Lap 40 of 78. Hamilton leading the Monaco Grand Prix. Less than half a second, though, ahead of Max Verstappen, and they've got a bit of traffic coming up, probably in the next lap or so. Let's go down to Jenny Gao.
Yeah, we've got a pit stop. I think it's Alexander Albon, the high driver for Toro Rosso, who's just going to swing it into the pit stop and go onto the medium tyres from the softest ones. He's had a good stint, 41 laps on a soft tyre if he hasn't been in before. It's quite incredible. I have to say, the rain is starting to come down more heavily again out here as well. Just something to look out for if this continues as it is. Could see another mix-up. You never know.
Indeed, but at the moment, Verstappen is only 4/10 away as they make their way through the middle section. Super close to the back of Hamilton. And just before we went to Wembley, Jolyon, Hamilton was asking, are the drivers behind, going slowly, or are they struggling to keep up? And Pete Bonington, Hamilton's engineers, seem to suggest, actually, they're just taking it steady, Vettel and Bottas.
Yeah, I think they might be, but Verstappen is, and he's really, really close to the back of Hamilton. And Hamilton has traffic now. Robert Kubica in the Williams, but Kubica gets well out of the way and doesn't actually cost Hamilton any time. That was one sigh of relief there for Hamilton, because that is the sort of thing that can go wrong. Verstappen's still very, very close, though, as they come over the start-finish line. I think he's still too far back to go for a move into turn one. But he clearly is struggling then, Lewis Hamilton, with the front tyre. Stroll then pitted after his long run on the medium tyre that he started on. That left front of his was raining badly. He nudged Kimi Raikkonen towards the wall and then cut the chicane to presumably try and stay ahead. Well, but he's pitted and getting a few spots of rain on the camera now as well.
Might have the wrong tyre on, man.
Pretty confident, Lewis. Grosjean 39 laps on his soft set and still going. Similar lap times.
Hamilton saying that...
Okay, man, let's go, let's use the tyre.
Mercedes went onto the mediums, the pit stops, where Verstappen and Vettel in second and third went onto the hard tyre. Bottas then picked up a puncture, so is now on the hard tyre in the end. He's actually dropping miles away, Valtteri Bottas. In relative terms, he's about 2 seconds back now from Sebastian Vettel, 4 seconds off race leader Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton is being forced to push. He wants to win this Grand Prix.
Verstappen applying the pressure, then into Raskas once again. Verstappen going a little bit wider than Lewis Hamilton to open up the exit. And then through the final corner, Anthony knows that's his best chance if he can just get some drive off that corner. DRS then into turn 1. But once again, Verstappen, even though he's a bit later on the brakes than Lewis Hamilton, he can't make it through. So just a bit frustrating for him. And Vettel sits pretty. If he's got better tyres, may come into this race and make it a 3-way scrap, even a 4-way scrap if Valtteri Bottas can join the party later on. So there's action going on. We've got another 35 laps of it, but this is it's very, very interesting Monaco.
A reminder that Max Verstappen has a 5-second penalty. At the moment, that time penalty would bring him out have enough to be third and on the podium, but he wants to take the lead and ideally pull away from Lewis Hamilton, even though you'd say on paper Hamilton has the faster car. So a fascinating Grand Prix developing here in Monaco.
Romain Grosjean now in 5th place, then he's the latest driver to have not pitted and 0.5 seconds further back, and he might even come into this. He needs a pit still, unlike the top 4, but Grosjean on the soft tyre. That was Hamilton's radio message, going along nicely, and he is. He's looking like he's going to points Grosjean, and he's proving that the tyre life on the soft, but Hamilton's on the mediums, and he's complaining, and Verstappen on the hard, and it's not looking so great for him either.
I have to say the rain's starting to come down a little more heavily. The champagne just being brought round for the trophy presentations in a little while. Hamilton like a bit more rain, then he can get off these tyres that he so clearly doesn't like.
I think if everyone pits, Hamilton will be happy. But everyone else is desperate not to pit. Another pit stop would suit Hamilton down to the ground. Alexander Albon's just the fastest lap of the race. 9th possession on a new set of medium tyres. Hamilton it is, though, leading the Grand Prix. Still less than a second in front of Max Verstappen. The 1.4 seconds back. Then Bottas in 4th. Romain Grosjean now, as Jolyon was saying, is the only outlier in 5th position in the pass. Behind him, it's Gasly, Sainz, Kvyat, Albon, Norris, the top 10. Raikkonen, Ricciardo, they are right together, actually, as they come across the start-finish straight and down into turn 1. And Raikkonen just about holds on to that place as they come through. He's in 11th place ahead of Ricciardo in 12th. Magnussen, 13th. Perez and Hülkenberg, the top 15. And it's Russell, Giovinazzi, Stroll, Kubica. 19 drivers still running. Charles Leclerc out of the Grand Prix. 5 of 78 here on BBC Radio 5 Live. Hamilton again comes across the line, fractionally in front of Verstappen by 0.6 of a second. Starting to slow down a little. This threat from Verstappen has been lurking a little too long to materialise.
It has. Pressure on Lewis Hamilton. He's 0.6 away from the back of Mercedes. Of course, if they all have to pit, Verstappen is the big loser here because he has to take 5 seconds. He may well stay ahead of Bottas because if they all have to pit, Bottas will have to double stack again. Although there's a bigger gap now, they're 1st and 4th. There's 4 seconds between the 2 Mercedes. So that.
Okay, I lost something. I'm losing a drive for some reason. Yeah.
Copy, we're having a look.
I think we are right.
Copy, right, keep pushing at the moment. Okay, your tire pressure, all good.
No, it's mechanical. It's in the diff for
copy.
That happens. Giovinazzi comes into the pit, so that'll be another sigh of relief for Lewis Hamilton because that battle now is over, and so it'll just be Lance Stroll that will need to get out of the way of the front runners. Hasn't done so yet, I don't believe. There's also a good train of cars behind Kimi Raikkonen in 11th place. Raikkonen, Ricciardo, Magnussen, Perez and Hülkenberg. 5 of them right together, nose to tail on the circuit. Actually, George Russell is with them somehow in the Williams. Well, I guess because he can still push at his normal Williams pace, and it matches all the cars going slower.
Yeah, he's doing a good job, George Russell. Remember, he was the fastest man on track at one point.
Sergio Perez has just sent one up the inside of Kevin Magnussen. Magnussen tries to hold on coming into the Nouvelle chicane and then cross the inside of the corner. Magnussen has held the position, and Perez is about to complain.
Man, Kevin got the chicane. I overtook the chicane.
What did you make of that one?
Yeah, Magnussen should cede that position. Perez clean up the inside around Monaco. That is enough, in my opinion. Magnussen cut the chicane, stayed ahead. I think Perez did a good job there and probably should keep that one.
You wouldn't cut a position to stay ahead, would you? Here they come down into Saint-Devote, and Ricciardo is trying to get one done on Kimi Raikkonen. Raikkonen doing well in 11th place because the Alfa Romeos qualified 18th for Giovinazzi and 14th for Raikkonen.
But Raikkonen hasn't pitted. He's on an old soft tyre now, and he's lapping 5 seconds adrift of Hamilton's pace out front. So this is a real train, and it's costing Ricciardo even more. And Lando Norris ahead now in 10th position. He's almost a full pit stop ahead of this battle, and that will be for the final point. So he needs Raikkonen to stay out there a bit longer and keep all of this gaggle behind. But now this is going to be interesting because Giovinazzi pitted, but now the leaders are coming up behind this gaggle. They're all going so slowly, and they're all fighting tooth and nail for their own position.
So before that kicks off, we've got a couple of corners. So let's check in at the tennis with Russell Fuller. Thank you very much, Russell. Lewis Hamilton leads the Monaco Grand Prix, but this is about to get... Oh, into the pits comes Raikkonen. That's going to, again, just be enough for Lewis Hamilton, because that'll spread out the cars in front a tiny bit, but he still has a train of some 7 cars that he needs to try and sweep past without losing out to Max Verstappen. And I think back to Singapore last year, where that all got a bit tight and Verstappen tried to take advantage of lapping back markers, because these guys are in their own battle. They don't want to just pull over and let the leaders through.
Yeah, it's still Lance Stroll that's the next man for Lewis Hamilton. He's all over the back of George Russell in his own fight. So Stroll on new tyres attacking Russell, and he's just now holding back Lewis Hamilton in the middle sector. So this is going to allow Verstappen to be very close.
Hamilton goes to the inside into the hairpin, not close enough. Verstappen looks to the outside and he can't get through, and all of a sudden, instantly, Vettel and Bottas, who've been hanging around saving their tyres a bit adrift, are brought right back into the lead fight because of the time Hamilton is losing. Here they come through the tunnel. No sign of Stroll backing off yet as they come down into the chicane. Hamilton sends it to the inside. Verstappen goes through as well. Stroll sees him coming. No repeat there, and then they get past George Russell as well. Vettel just starting out at the last minute to get past Stroll as they come into back, and Bottas horribly held up. Oh, that's horrible. Lance Stroll slowed down to a sort of walking pace to let Bottas through, and Bottas sort of didn't.
No,
it was a tricky part of the track.
He tried to get out of the way, Lance Stroll. He tried, but he just couldn't, really. And when he was trying to get out of the way, Bottas was sort of too afraid that he didn't see him and try and go to the inside, so he's lost a lot of time, but there's still a load more cars. Russell's out of the way of the leaders as well, but there's still 2 Renaults. Perez is Racing Point, and Kevin Magnussen in there as well for the leaders to clear.
And Ricciardo's got past Norris. Daniel Ricciardo has got past Lando Norris and up into 10th position.
Yeah, Norris just pitted. Yep. So that is, Norris needed Raikkonen to stay probably one more lap, and he might have done it for a point. But he's now going to be on much fresher tyres. He's on a set of softs. So Lando Norris maybe can attack Daniel Ricciardo for the last points position, with still a long way to go this Grand Prix.
So that now has spread out the leaders again. They were all together, but Hamilton and Verstappen are still together. But now it's 2.5 seconds back to Vettel and 2.3 seconds back to Bottas in 4th after he got involved with Lance Stroll. But there's still more cars to pass, though they are not quite as close together as they were previously.
Yeah, it was crucial for Hamilton, I think, that Raikkonen pitted, because Raikkonen was just backing them all up and it was chaos behind him. It was like 5 seconds off the pace and they were all just fanning out, looking out for each other, let alone the leaders coming through. But now Raikkonen pitted, all the rest of that bunch have picked up the pace to a fairly sensible level. So Hamilton actually is not a lot quicker than the drivers around him now.
Yeah, that's true, actually. So Hamilton is rapidly closing in on those back markers in front. Lap 50 of 78. in the Monaco Grand Prix on BBC Radio 5 Live. Palmer alongside Jack Nicholls' commentary box, overlooking the pit lane and the final couple of corners. Down in the pits is Jenny Gow, and here's Hamilton's radio.
I think I'm in big trouble, guys. Left front is dead.
Copy, Lewis. All we can do is go as long as we can. We aren't going to box now.
Right, we aren't going to box now, Mercedes is saying. We've got to go as long as we can. How often have we heard Hamilton saying he can't get to the end of the Grand Prix on these tyres?
I was going to say, is there ever a Hamilton win without a moment of jeopardy on the team radio? He likes to keep us all on the edge of our toes, edge of our seats. But it is close with Max Verstappen. He is coming through this traffic. It is difficult for Hamilton. He's really having to work for this one. And he probably now just needs to not try and actually catch the Renault ahead, just control the pace and let Verstappen try, but if he has blue flags for the cars ahead, that's going to be a bigger chance for Verstappen than Hamilton just controlling the pace as he was earlier.
Indeed, so still Hamilton ahead of Verstappen, separated by just 7/10 of a second, finally into the pits.
If I follow him this close, I open the graining myself, so let him die with his tires and then we attack.
Now to make his pit stop, and he joins the circuit. Grosjean, he was running well, 5th position. And he now rejoins onto the circuit, and the Haas team will be on the tips of their seats to try and figure out where that's going to do with Roman Grosjean. Let's down to Jenny.
I was on the tips of my seat as well, just beside myself, as one could only be. Just having a look at that Grosjean stint, 51 laps he managed to do on that soft tyre. Lewis Hamilton could only dream of doing that. He'd love to get 51 laps out of this tyre. He's going to have to try it with all his might, and if he can, but there's a real feeling of unease now, and you can really feel the Mercedes guys just trying to pull this one out. But can he do it? Yesterday in qualifying, he said he had to dig deeper than ever. Well, going to have to dig even deeper than ever.
Vettel has joined.
Are my temps cold or hot? I don't even know anymore.
As they come across the line, he is right behind Max Verstappen.
And he's lapping quickly. They all just suddenly pumped in a time that was near their personal best, and now Hamilton just brings that pace a little bit down. Vettel, having closed the gap to Verstappen, cannot go as quickly as he was with clear air, having lost a bit of time with the traffic. Pierre Gasly is in 5th, and he's only 15 seconds behind the lead as well. So if Hamilton backs the pack up more, then Gasly can start to give Valtteri Bottas a hard time, and Gasly pitted later than. Oh, he didn't pit under the safety car. He went longer, so he might have a bit of a tyre advantage. Get onto the tail of Bottas. So we might have 2 Red Bulls attacking 2 Mercedes with the Ferrari in the middle of it.
Let's go for an update at Wembley with Chris Wise. Thank you, Chris. Here at the Monaco Grand Prix, it is Lewis Hamilton leading, but just ahead of Max Verstappen. And Verstappen is closer than he's been for a couple of laps now, and they're coming up to some traffic in front of them as well as they flash underneath the tunnel, underneath the hotel, and then emerge, get on the brakes, down for the chicane at the end of that long straight. And it is Nico Hülkenberg that they're coming up to. He is up behind Sergio Perez, the 2 former teammates, and they are not super close to each other. We're just getting a replay of Daniel Kvyat almost careering into the back of Robert Kubica, and instead of having to lap him on the circuit, he just cuts across the chicane and carries on. So at 53 of 78, 25 laps to go. It's still a long way to go on medium tyres for Lewis Hamilton, the race leader, Jolyon Palmer.
It is, but he's still lapping at a consistent pace, Hamilton. it's still 1.2 seconds, 1.1 seconds on that last lap away from his best, which was set on the soft tyres earlier on. But able to control the pace as he's been doing all Grand Prix. Blue flags for the car ahead. So now Hulkenberg is aware the leaders are behind. He's got to get out of the way.
Okay, Kimi, so ahead of you is your friend Stroll. He's on hard tires.
Sergio Perez further ahead. That's a battle for 13th and 14th, so they're not heading towards any points. But it's not a nice moment for Lewis Hamilton. Once again, in clear air, he can just manage the pace. He can control it. But if he got caught out, as Valtteri Bottas got caught up behind Lance Stroll, Verstappen won't need a second invitation to make a move.
54 of 78, onto the brakes again. Taking a lot of curb at the swimming pool, at the Nouvelle chicane on the exit of the tunnel. Left to back and then past the swimming pool. Catch these guys, not quite at Le Rascasse this time around. Could you go around the track and figure out the best places to get out of the way here if you are showing the blue flag, or is it something that you only really think of once you're in the race and you see a blue flag?
You know roughly where you can do it on the straights. You don't need to absolutely jump out of the way whenever the blue flag's waved. You can wait for a convenient place, and that is acceptable to the race direction. But it's remember, these guys are in a race of their own. Hulkenberg won't care who wins the Grand Prix. He'll care if he passes Sergio Perez. So won't be thinking about Lewis Hamilton's race until he absolutely has to get out of the way. And he'll do it without losing his men as little of his own time. He won't think about how much he's compromising Hamilton, so he doesn't get a penalty.
Hamilton leads the race. He's on the medium compound of tyre. Behind him is Max Verstappen, who's on the harder compound, but has a 5-second time penalty for an unsafe release in the pit lane. Hamilton has now made his way past Nico Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg got out of the way at a decent time, a decent place. It hasn't compromised Hamilton too much. So Verstappen, if he wants to win the race, has got to overtake Hamilton and then pull 5 seconds clear as well. So a long way for Verstappen to win the Grand Prix. His real aim is going to be finishing in 3rd place in front of Valtteri Bottas on the podium. That'll be the minimum expectation, because whatever happens, got a 4th place wrapped up. He's some 20 seconds in front of his teammate Pierre Gasly, who's in 5th as it stands. So that 5-second time penalty wouldn't affect him there.
No, but for the man that was in 3rd, qualified in 3rd, took 2nd with a, penalisable offence, here's Hamilton.
We're going to lose this race, Monaco. I can't look after this tyres anymore. They're dead.
Lewis, just thinking about it, if we manage to the same pace as the cars in front and you can still hold Verstappen behind, then we won't have to pass any of them.
I can't keep the car behind, Mono. You not see that?
Yeah, no problem, Lewis. Yeah, Verstappen's been there all race.
Now this is where, being your engineer, you're also your coach on the sidelines, aren't you? And presumably that's something that a lot of engineers aren't qualified for. You know, they're there for their engineering expertise, not necessarily because they're some, motivational speaking legend.
Yeah, a bit of psychology in this as well, but that is the role of the engineer. They are the voice on the radio to try and motivate the drivers. They all work in different ways. Pete Bonington always very, very calm, methodical with what he's saying to Lewis Hamilton. Verstappen, we heard his engineer earlier on saying, you can go and catch Hamilton past him and beat him by 5 seconds. There's much different approaches for the different drivers. You've got to know the person that you're speaking to and what they want to hear. Hamilton saying, can you not see I can't keep him behind? Done a good job for 56 laps, but he's clearly feeling the heat underneath the helmet.
Yeah, he and Pete Bonington do get on well, but you always sense when Lewis uses his name in a message, it's very tense in that helmet, and he just wants to do things his way, and it's not going his way at the moment. Yes, he's keeping Verstappen behind him, but he knows this is really uncomfortable driving for him, and he fears what's about to happen, and there might not be a lot they can do about it right now.
Well, I think that's the point, isn't it? There is zero. If they pit now, they lose the Grand Prix. You might as well try and stay out and win it.
Yeah, just drive around, Lewis. You've got 21 laps. Just don't make any mistakes. You don't need to catch the cars ahead. That was a good message from Pete Bonington. You don't need to go and put your race at risk by lapping a cars ahead that may block you at an inconvenient moment on the track. But Hamilton just clearly very wary. But if he thinks that this is a stretch to win the Monaco Grand Prix, he should go and speak to Daniel Ricciardo after the race, because Ricciardo did 50 laps last year with 160 less horsepower in his Red Bull, and he kept Sebastian Vettel at bay. Now, you don't want the Monaco Grand Prix win to be easy, and Lewis Hamilton right now is feeling the heat.
That's a really good point, you know, but I have to say that Red Bull will be listening. They'll have someone in the team office listening across to the Hamilton's radio, and they will be relaying all of this and just hoping that Verstappen can do exactly what Hamilton does not want him to do. They all listen across to each other's radio. It's fascinating.
And of all the drivers that Hamilton could have behind, I would guarantee you that Max Verstappen would be the one he didn't want there. Sebastian Vettel was the driver behind Daniel Ricciardo last year, and he never really showed much intent to overtake. His teammate Valtteri Bottas won't send a big lunge on Lewis Hamilton and risk wiping both Mercedes out. Max Verstappen might. He's in a Red Bull. He's super aggressive. He wants to win the Monaco Grand Prix, and he's got a shot. If he can clear Hamilton, he can pull 5 seconds because Hamilton is clearly struggling on a softer tyre that maybe is having more degradation.
Verstappen really close into the chicane this time around. No move made, but that feels like it's the closest he'd been for a while. Now they come into back. They are catching one of the cars in front as they come through the swimming pool section. It's Kevin Magnussen in the Haas. Feel like they're closing on him a little bit. Magnussen on that last lap of 17.4. Actually, Hamilton was a bit slower last time through. They come out of Anthony Nogues again, the final corner, named after the man that invented the Monaco Grand Prix way back in 1929. Here we are 90 years later watching Lewis Hamilton defending the lead of the race from Max Verstappen. It's those moments, isn't it, when Lewis Hamilton says, "Can't you see I can't hold the lead of the race?" And all we're seeing is Lewis Hamilton hold the lead of the race.
Yeah, he's trying to just tell Pete Bonington exactly what he's feeling, trying to really emphasise how difficult this race is. But it looks, to the outside, all in control still. I mean, nothing's changed since earlier on when he was controlling the race. But this time Verstappen's a little bit closer into Portier now, under the tunnel. Here's Hamilton.
I don't know what you keep these tyres on. Need to hope for a miracle.
Well, Hamilton really getting a bit sassy now with Pete Bonington on the radio. And, yeah, interesting. But Hamilton knows what Monaco is. He'll know, surely, that if he pits, he'll lose 20 seconds. He'll be probably 5th. And that's where he'll finish, no matter what tyres he puts on.
He's a showman, isn't he, Lewis Hamilton? I think he knows these radio messages are broadcast, and he knows that this is keeping everyone on the edge of our seats. Now, it's not looking easy.
Sergio Perez has just sent one up the inside of Kevin Magnussen. Now, I think that might be a replay from before. Certainly looked very similar, that incident earlier on. And Perez is 7 seconds off the back of Magnussen. That was earlier on in the... So you think Hamilton's going, "Cool, toughest Grand Prix ever," so he looks cool?
Well, no, but he clearly cannot pit again.
Yeah.
Surely he can't pit again. He's still struggling. He's actually falling closer to Verstappen. If he pits again, he will not win the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, he might. He's in the best position for it. I mean, it's as simple as that, and that's what they need to relate to. Forget it. You're not pitting. You're staying out there, and you've got to just deal with it for the next 18 laps.
Through the chicane they come. This really does feel like 1993 when Ayrton Senna was leading the race for McLaren, and he had the Williams of Nigel Mansell all over the back of him. Mansell, the dominant car that season, but he just couldn't find a way through around the narrow streets of Monte Carlo. And Sebastian Vettel is coming to join the fight as well. Then behind them is Valtteri Bottas in 4th spot. A reminder that Verstappen still has that 5-second time penalty, and as of now, that would drop him back to 4th place. So he needs to get past Hamilton if he wants anything out of the Grand Prix other than 4th.
And he's going to want a podium from this race at the very least. He's driven very well. He's been the one man in that top 4 that looks like they might make a move. I mean, Vettel's just been sat there a second behind. Vettel looks like he's happy with 2nd place. He just needs to stay within 5 seconds of Verstappen. Bottas can do nothing about Sebastian Vettel ahead, but Verstappen is so close. Here we go. This could be the chance now into the chicane.
Through the right-hander at Portier they come. Max Verstappen right up behind Hamilton. Hamilton very, very good on acceleration out of the right-hander at Portier, and Verstappen looks a little too far back.
The move's got to be into Portier. It's got to be the Jensen Button, Pascal Wehrlein flash move of 2017, but Hamilton's so slow around the hairpin, and Verstappen is all over him. I've seen a pass there in the past, and it's worked. If he's going to make it stick, Hamilton won't be waiting. He's just trying to prepare the Portier corner before the tunnel, and Verstappen, if he absolutely goes for it, he may have a shot there. Everywhere else, Hamilton's just covering. He's getting good exits, and he's able to just extend his advantage onto the big straight.
Across the line they come again to start lap 62 of 78. Sunderland still leading Charlton by a goal to nil in the league.
Slightly bizarrely, you were the quickest car on the track that lap.
4 tenths ahead of Max Verstappen, just in front of him on the road with Sebastian Vettel right behind them. Vettel not really getting stuck in. You wonder whether he's been saving all his tyres, and in the last 10 laps he's going to absolutely go hell for leather and try and gain a place, but he doesn't need to overtake Verstappen on the road because Verstappen has a 5-second time penalty. It was 1-0 to Sunderland, but we've had another goal at Wembley. Chris Wise. We're on lap 63 of 78 here on the Monaco Grand Prix, and Lewis Hamilton still leading just ahead of Max Verstappen. The Mercedes team just had a little bit of movement in the pit lane. They got up off their seats, had a little sort of move of the furniture, and then looked like they've sat back down. Being Verstappen still right behind Lewis Hamilton, and
Slightly bizarrely, you were the quickest car on the track that lap.
Woohoo! Extra brake.
If you can find another 1.5 seconds.
This is tense for the win, and Verstappen is giving it a go. That's the difference. I think Vettel was more passive, and Vettel's passive in this race as well. He just sat there, just counting down the laps, but Verstappen is one that's never passive, and he's got the DRS open with Lewis Hamilton, and he heads down towards Saint-Devant. Still nothing doing there. He's got to try and get it in the middle sector. That's where Hamilton's just not as strong. And surprise. He's got to surprise his rival. I think that's the thing. Yeah, Gasly pitted again in the Red Bull. Fitted a set of soft tyres, presumably to try and get past this lap, but also he can now go and attack Valtteri Bottas potentially on a new set of tyres, maybe make a difference later on in the race.
Bottas is taking it very, very slowly at the moment. Max Verstappen is so close to the back of Lewis Hamilton as they...
So don't get distracted by Gasly. You manage your race. 15 laps to go after this one.
in the League One playoff final, and Lewis Hamilton leads the Monaco Grand Prix ahead of Max Verstappen and Sebastian Vettel. Nothing has changed for a while. Bottas is backed off on the last lap. He's now too far back to have third place compared to Max Verstappen. Maybe he's now going to try and make a run at Sebastian Vettel, potentially. Once again, Verstappen is so close into the hairpin. Do you think a lunge into the hairpin is on?
he needs to be a little bit closer out of Mirabeau. I still think Portier. I think he needs to keep his powder dry. Don't even show a nose there. Don't let Lewis Hamilton think that that might be a possibility. And then at some point, if he's just a little bit closer, then go for it on the inside. You're shaking your head, but I've seen it work, and I don't see it working anywhere else.
Have you seen it twice? Right, 2 times it's been attempted. 1 time it worked. The other time, Pascal Wehrlein ended up on his head in the barriers.
This is for the win in Monaco, and at the moment, Verstappen may well not get a podium. Do you go for it? Do you go for the 50-50 move at Portier? That's the only place I see that Verstappen can make it, because Hamilton is just wise to everything else. He's just getting the exits right. He's got left front graining, but his rear tyres are working well, and that's what's enabling him to get off the corners.
That's 66 of 78 in the Monaco Grand Prix. And Valtteri Bottas has just set the fastest lap of the race, so that gives him a point as it stands for fastest lap, because he's fastest lap. But we'll see whether Gasly is going to push for that, because he's on a softer set of tyres.
And that gives you some indication as to the pace of everyone else. Bottas there just drops back, 2 seconds quicker than Hamilton ahead. And Vettel now is close to Verstappen as well. So the top 3 are all bunching up. Bottas has clearly got a lot of pace in the Mercedes that he's just been unable to use all Grand Prix long. But there is pace in the drivers. On the hard tyre at least. Maybe the medium is going away, and that's what Hamilton's on. But everyone on hards, well, Bottas clearly has just been sat there minding his business, is able to just unleash some pace.
In a way, maybe that puncture that Bottas had was a fairly fortunate thing, because it put him onto the harder tyre. Lewis Hamilton's struggling on the medium tyre. He doesn't like to be on it at all. And Bottas, as you say, just being able to put in a fastest lap on the hardest tyre doesn't always make sense. I think Gasly will definitely push for it now, but these 1 points for fastest lap are going to be crucial going forward. Just 7 points separate Hamilton from Bottas now.
But that puncture for Bottas put him behind Sebastian Vettel with a 5-second penalty for Max Verstappen. That would have given Mercedes another 1-2 as it stands, even on the medium tyres. So, I mean, still it was a negative, but it does mean at the moment he's in the mix for the fastest lap point. Pierre Gasly will have to go some to beat it, but he's trying right now, and he's done the fastest middle sector of anyone. He's still 30 seconds behind Valtteri Bottas, so he's not going to get on the tail of his rival, but he's going to go for that fastest lap point.
So, Lewis Hamilton in the lead of the Grand Prix. Max Verstappen is super close now. Gasly does set the fastest lap of the race. And I know I've been saying Max Verstappen is close now for the last 45 minutes, maybe an hour. But still is, and he still has been. And still can't quite make the move on Lewis Hamilton. It's Vettel in 3rd, Bottas in 4th. And then in 5th place, we've got Pierre Gasly, who has now set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. 6th position is Carlos Sainz. 7th is Daniel Kvyat, 8th Alexander Albon, 9th Romain Grosjean, and 10th is Daniel Ricciardo. So Lando Norris, the British driver, just outside of the points-paying positions as it stands. So we're saying that Lewis Hamilton, these tyres can't go to the end. We've seen it before, but where he says that and then they can. These do look in quite bad shape, don't they?
Oh, they do. And the other drivers that were on the medium tyres were suffering at the end of that stint. They were quite long stints, but Lance Stroll, before he pitted, was struggling. So I don't think he's making it up, but I don't think there's another option for Mercedes. They obviously can't pit him, so they have to just keep him out there. And good luck, chap. Do your best. That's about it. And he's still behind.
Time management's been good, Carlos. Time management's been good, and tyres look good to us.
Come down into 48. The right-hander, and out onto the straight again. A little step out of the back end for Lewis Hamilton, and then continues on his way through the tunnel up to 180 miles an hour, then onto the brakes. Verstappen is not close enough, and Verstappen just not able to force the issue at the moment.
If Verstappen doesn't pass Hamilton, he won't be on the podium. Bottas has clearly got a lot of pace. There's no reason he'll drop back. And Vettel as well. They have better pace than the driver than Hamilton and Verstappen. They will be within 5 seconds. The only way Verstappen gets on the podium is to go for the win of the race. It's a strange situation. 10 laps to go, and he's still just all over the back of Hamilton, but can't do anything about it.
James Vowles, the strategist for Mercedes, has been on the radio, and he said, Lewis, it's James. You can do it if you trust it. James doesn't speak to Lewis normally. It's an exceptional moment for the driver. He needs all the help he can get.
mentally, I suppose, rather than actual, there's nothing, as Jolien was just saying, there's nothing really Mercedes can do physically except continue to encourage Hamilton and tell him that that is the situation that they really believe can get to the end of the Grand Prix on these tyres. Lap 69 of 78. We'll probably get into this after the Grand Prix on the Checker Flag podcast, which you'll be able to download later on this evening. But Mercedes switching to the medium tyres at pit stop, there'll be question marks over that.
Yeah, well, it's clearly an error, isn't it? Here's Verstappen.
Mode 7 to the end when you're ready.
More power. You have overtake available.
Oh, that's great news.
Hamilton being told Max Verstappen's just been given more power, but you've got your overtake button. If
that's for defending, basically. If Hamilton thinks Verstappen's a little bit closer onto one of those long straights, he'll use it. I still think Verstappen's best chance is the element of surprise around Monaco. Go for something a little bit more quirky where Hamilton won't be ready to use the overtake button to defend. But Verstappen then give him more power. He's been all over the back of Hamilton for the best part of 60 laps then since the safety car ended, and he's really, really close into Mirabeau. This could be a chance in the middle sector here, or the hairpin.
Down into the hairpin now. Hamilton covers the inside a little bit, and Verstappen almost runs into the back of him around the outside. Now they come into the right-hander that leads out to Portier, and Hamilton covers the door a little bit, and Verstappen now gets on the power. He's super close to the back as they come through the tunnel for the 70th time in this Monaco Grand Prix, but he's a tiny bit too far away. The send one coming into the chicane, but Verstappen now with his extra power is really starting to put the pressure on Lewis Hamilton into the back. He's a little further back now, so let's quickly pop to the tennis and Russell Fuller at Roland Garros. Thank you, Russell. Lewis Hamilton leading the Grand Prix just in front of Max Verstappen, and they were super close down at the Lowe's hairpin, the slowest corner in Formula One at some 30 miles an hour.
He's having to defend now, Hamilton. He's really, really having to work for this victory in the Monaco Grand Prix as they head onto lap 71. Verstappen's still there. He's just dropped back slightly on this lap, but he won't drop back for long. He really needs to pass Hamilton, even to get on the podium. So he's got the bit between his teeth, and he is really, really quick around the hairpin section where they are now.
They swing right through Portier again. Corner that takes them out and into the tunnel. Hamilton a little bit too far back from the Haas in front of him on the circuit, so he's not getting affected by that at the moment. Hamilton, as Verstappen, is very strong on the brakes into that chicane as well. They accelerate down towards to back. The quick left flick. Now, Vettel and Bottas lurking, but not really getting stuck in. I kind of thought that one or two... Oh, and Verstappen makes a mistake, and he has to skip across at the swimming pool. That's going to drop him back. Not a huge amount, but a couple of tenths. So that'll give Hamilton a little bit of breathing space, and the first of those two to make a mistake in this standoff almost is Max Verstappen.
But that won't cost him much at all. Valtteri Bottas then is quite close. He's only 6 tenths behind Sebastian Vettel as well. That's for third position. Verstappen just went in a bit hot to the second part of the swimming pool, had a big oversteer, and then just caught it, cut the chicane, and carried on. He'll be back onto the tail of Lewis Hamilton very shortly, but you can clearly pushing so hard. He wants this race win. This is what they all want. It's the biggest one in the season, the Monaco Grand Prix, the crown and the jewel, and Verstappen could see the lead of the race. He's been looking at it for such a long time.
Thing is now, though, it's lap 72 of 78, so he's got to get past Hamilton and then pull away rapidly in the final laps if he wants to actually win it.
For the win, yeah, but he may be able to. Hamilton's struggling with the tyres. He maybe could do that in 2 or 3 laps, Max Verstappen. And even if he can't, he needs to pass Hamilton to get third or second position anyway. So if he passes Hamilton, he will minimum get on the podium, but he may well be able to just find that time very quickly. Hamilton's struggling with his tyres, and Verstappen in clear air will be able to put the hammer down and open up that gap, but he's just stuck behind his rival.
So it is Hamilton leading 6 tenths of a second to Verstappen in second. Vettel is a second further back in third place. Valtteri Bottas 8 tenths of a second away behind Vettel, and then it's 19 seconds back to Pierre Gasly, who's the fastest man on the circuit, but he's got a new set of tyres and isn't close to anyone else. It's very close to 6th place at the moment with Carlos Sainz. in the McLaren in that spot, 9 tenths ahead of Kvyat, who's only 7 tenths ahead of Albon, who's only a second ahead of Grosjean. So 6th through 9th is very close. Daniel Ricciardo is completing the top 10 at the moment. Pierre Gasly sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix again still, though all by himself in 5th spot. Lap 73 of 78. So Hamilton and Verstappen right together, nose to tail. Then it's a second to Vettel and a second back to Bottas. They come out into the tunnel again. Mercedes car's really quick off the corner, isn't it?
All the corners, not even just the Portier corner, which is so crucial to release cars through the tunnel and onto the straighter part of the Monaco circuit. But even out of the hairpin, Hamilton's really struggling through those hairpins, but he's quick off the side of those hairpin. Cannot keep that pressure on into Portier. He's just dropping back a little car length, and that's what's making the difference.
By now, 20 seconds of seconds. Hamilton, his lap time 17.5. Target lap time low.
Ben Purrington's first senior goal, but it is 1-1 at half-time at Wembley. 5 laps to go in the Monaco Grand Prix. Hamilton has been holding on for lap after lap, for minute after minute, almost hour after hour, quite frankly. And even if now Verstappen gets through, it's getting to the point where he can stay with him because there's so few laps remaining, but he doesn't want to take that risk. Oh, big switch from Verstappen as he tries to get on the power on the exit of Mirabeau. But able to make it through, though. Now down into Portier, he's super close. Doesn't go for it. But he's right with him now, coming out through the tunnel. In fact, this is the closest he's been for a long, long time. Max Verstappen, is he going to make the move down into the chicane for the lead of the Monaco Grand Prix? No, doesn't quite fancy it. Surely Hamilton will, let him through. It feels like it's quite low risk now. Hamilton will not get involved in an accident with Verstappen, surely.
Well, you just don't know what pace Verstappen can unleash, and there's a packed market. Still Kevin Magnussen ahead, and if Magnussen lets Verstappen through easier than Hamilton, then the gap will extend quickly. Verstappen, everyone's going to be willing to go for it, for the move, for the lead, and potentially the win of the Monaco Grand Prix. 3 laps to go. He was so close on the last lap. Again, Portier was the corner before the tunnel where he was really the closest, and he was just a little bit further back at the braking zone.
How much do you brake for Portier?
Not a lot. You've just got to go in deep and hope. But Verstappen, he's a risk taker. He clearly wants it, and he's still really close through the hairpin section.
Here they come down to Portier again. Is he going to be fancying it this time? No, every time he goes wide and tries to get a better run through the corner to then be right behind Hamilton out onto the straight that comes through the tunnel. Now, though, on lap 75 of 78, you feel that even if he gets past Hamilton, won't be able to build up enough of a gap to win the Grand Prix. And Valtteri Bottas, 2.6 seconds, so he needs to gain about 2.5 seconds to finish on the podium here, Verstappen, because of a 5-second time penalty due to an unsafe release earlier on.
Not going to finish on the podium right now. The only way he can do it is if he passes Hamilton. He may then win the race. Even if not, he will get on the podium. But can't do it. He clearly doesn't fancy that Portier move then, because he's been very, very close for a number of laps and doesn't want to risk a good points finish. He's looking just to get close enough through the tunnel and into the braking zone for the Nouvelle Chicane. But that's the obvious place around this circuit. As soon as it's a bit closer, Hamilton could just defend the inside. Verstappen will not go around the outside of Hamilton there. So I think Hamilton is looking good then for this win with 2.5 laps to go.
Lap 76 of 78 in the Monaco Grand Prix. Next race in 2 weeks' time in Canada, which you can hear here on BBC Radio 5 Live, every session live across the network. Close again into Portier, and this looks like it will be the end of Mercedes 1-2 domination, with Valtteri Bottas sitting down there in 4th place. Verstappen close again to Hamilton, goes for it! Up the inside and they touch! Hamilton is nudged by Max Verstappen, and he doesn't appear to have picked up any damage. Hamilton holds the lead of the race. Verstappen drops now back to a second behind. He was reasonably close, Verstappen. He sent it, locked up, bumped into Hamilton, and I think they will decide no harm, no foul there.
Yeah, I would have thought so. I mean, it was so brave. I don't think Hamilton saw that one coming. He started to squeeze and sort of turn in for the corner. Had a bit of contact from Verstappen, who locked up both fronts and basically was out of control down there at the chicane. Couldn't avoid Lewis Hamilton. But then Hamilton, just again, the calm, wise head, and he cut the chicane, kept the position. Here's Max Verstappen.
That's a good effort, mate.
Yeah, just turns in. I'm trying to overtake.
Verstappen there. Oh, that was a good effort. And now Verstappen complaining about Hamilton's driving. He just turned in. I was trying to overtake. Hamilton didn't leave room, admittedly, but Verstappen was a long way behind.
Verstappen was too far back that time. If Hamilton had left the door open, he might have made it through, Max Verstappen. But I think he was so far ahead still, even as he was trying to turn in, that I don't think Verstappen could expect Hamilton to jump out of the way for the race win at that exact moment. But it clearly shows Verstappen will give this a go there.
But he's only going to have one more opportunity. We're on the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. Once again, the cars come underneath the commentary box. There's Hamilton, there's Verstappen, a little bit of a gap, and then there's Vettel, and then there's Bottas. Bottas has not really been putting any moves on Vettel throughout the Grand Prix, and this result will... Bottas might have just lost quite a bit of time trying to get past some back markers there. As they come across the line now, Hamilton leads, Verstappen second, and then Vettel through, and Bottas is still 3.3 seconds back from Verstappen, so that still wouldn't mean Verstappen is on the podium. This now is on the final lap of the 2019 Monaco Grand Prix, lap 78 of 78. Verstappen has one opportunity left, really, and he's a bit too far. That incident is under investigation between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, so let's hope, well, that they can get that decided ASAP, really, because you don't really want the result of this Grand Prix to be decided after the race. Verstappen wants one more go, doesn't he? Through Portier, tucks right underneath the rear wing of Hamilton as they come through the tunnel. He's not as close as he was last time he went for it, and he's way too far back this time to chuck one up the inside of Hamilton. And it looks as though it's going to be Hamilton's victory, and Verstappen will only finish fourth.
And what a shame for him, because he has been so good in this Grand Prix, Max Verstappen. He's been the one that's given it a go. Hamilton's been mighty as well to hold on, but Verstappen's really given us a great race out front. Vettel and Bottas have done nothing behind, but Hamilton's going to take it.
Here he comes then through the final corner at Anthony Nogues, and Lewis Hamilton, for the third time in his career, is going to win the Monaco Grand Prix, possibly one of the toughest wins he's had in Formula One, having to fight and defend all the way, but he holds Verstappen off. It's Vettel who finishes second, and therefore Hamilton extends his lead at the top of the Drivers' World Championship with a win at the 2019 Monaco Grand Prix. Verstappen second across the road, but that 5-second penalty shuffles him down to fourth. Vettel in second, Bottas in third. The first time we haven't had a Mercedes 1-2 in a Grand Prix this season. Mercedes still will have a chat, no doubt, about how they... here's his radio.
Get in there, Lewis. That one's for Nicky, mate. That one is for Nicky.
Niki Lauda, instrumental part of the man who convinced Lewis Hamilton to move to Mercedes back in 2014, who passed away at the start of the Grand Prix weekend. Hamilton wearing a Niki Lauda tribute helmet, and he has taken victory on the streets of Monaco, as Lauda did himself first time in 1975.
Lewis, it's James. Incredible drive. There was no one else that could have done that. Just really well done, mate.
Oh, that's not going to feel great if you're Valtteri Bottas. When your chief strategist is saying, and Bottas watches this back, and here's the engineer saying, yeah, no one else could have done that. Valtteri would have had no chance.
I mean, they're caught up in the moment. Maybe they'll say afterwards.
Lewis, that was a victory worth Nicky. Well done. Unbelievable job. Congratulations.
That was Toto Wolff, the boss of the Mercedes Motorsport operation. That will be a big victory for Hamilton, because instead of a 7-point swing in the championship, that's a 10-point swing in Hamilton's favour, because usually it's first and second between the Mercedes, but first and third going to harm Bottas. And you have to feel a little bit for Bottas, because Verstappen got the penalty, yes, and he harmed Bottas, yes, but the unsafe release that Verstappen was penalised for cost Bottas second place ultimately.
I feel the most for Max Verstappen here. What a drive that was in Monaco. He's not guilty for the unsafe release. That's the team that released him. He just goes when he gets the green light in the pit stop. And he should have at least been on the podium here. He's ended up 4th, but he's given us...
Well done, Carlos. Well done. P6. Fantastic drive.
Yeah, great job, guys. I did the job at the start, you did it on the strategy. So thank you. What a team. What a team.
An unbelievable drive from him. Valtteri Bottas pulls up into 3rd spot. And just to the right, be Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari that pulls up next to him. So Lewis Hamilton sat there, just taking it all in. Out comes the steering wheel. Climbs out of the car very slowly, puts the steering wheel back on as he just rests his bottom. The back of this stands aloft of the halo. Just puts one arm, one fist, and then looks up at the crowds in their apartments looking down at him. And he just is so ecstatic to be in an opportunity to have won this. He goes up to the guys in his Mercedes team and understandably gives them a little bit of a hug. Really loving this moment. Still got his helmet on at the moment, so we're just waiting to take that off, and then we'll hear a few words from the winner of the Monaco Grand Prix. Gloves down. Now that he's adding great Baku race, just on all of his kits. Balaclava, his cornrows neatly there. And he just pulled his helmet in the sky. It's got a Niki Lauda on it. Pays tribute to the man who was responsible for bringing him to Mercedes from McLaren those years ago now. Man who passed away at the beginning of this. Lewis Hamilton.